compositions, at the matrix composition, at the embryo composition. If you know the G versus XG curve, if you know the equation, for regular solution you know the equation, how the equation looks like. It is the summation xi gi naught plus RT x summation xi ln xi plus the xs term. That xs term contains that interaction parameter, the energy, bond energy between A and B atoms minus half of AA plus BB atoms multiplied by the coordination numbers. You know that. So you can write the Gibbs free energy versus XB curve for a regular solution, and you can find out the delta GV value from that equation we had. And the interfacial energy term gamma is function of, again, the composition. It is proportional to the square of the composition difference between the embryo and the matrix, xn minus xi whole square multiplied by z multiplied by that number of atoms on the surface. So those things we have discussed. That is the Baker's model. Borelius model, what he assumed is, as the embryo, the Baker fixed the composition and made the size variable, used the classical nucleation theory to find out the size of the nucleus, critical size nucleus. What Borelius assumed is, for a fixed size of the embryo, what composition of the embryo will make it stable. So then we had the curve of delta G, that is the Gibbs free energy of formation of the embryo versus the size of the, not the size, what was in the x-axis? The composition of the embryo. And we found out what is the delta G star. So any embryo of composition above that x star, it will be stable, because further addition of an atom will make it will make the Gibbs free energy go down. So even though it is less than the part where, like, if you remember, this is the Gibbs free energy plotted versus composition curve at a particular temperature, and if this is your composition of the matrix, we drew a tangent here, and initially for the Baker model we said that any composition below this delta GV will be negative, the embryo cannot form. Then the corresponding delta GV will be this one. Delta GV actual value will be positive. Well, delta GV sign was negative of this length. So delta GV will be positive, the gamma is positive, so nucleus cannot form, embryo cannot form this, any composition below this, for the Baker model. But for the Borelius model, gamma term was ignored. Gamma term was ignored, interfacial energy was ignored for the Borelius model. The only thing came into picture was the delta G. And delta G, there we saw that if we plot delta G, we got this type of curve. So this is that XC, if this is the composition of XC, this is that XC where delta G will be 0. But some other X star where it is maximum. So Borelius model is saying that a nucleus can be stable even below Xc. What Baker model is saying that it cannot be. Because Borelius ignored this term, so it can be stable even below Xc, above X star it is stable. So those two we talked about. today we'll discuss about on the same model, just little bit difference in the assumption. So obstator and later psi they attempted to combine the Baker and Borelius model. So they assumed that the most probable nucleus is that combination of the size and composition requiring the least free energy of formation, taking into account both surface energy gamma and delta G beta. Sagnik and Shivam, this side can you see this side? No, you cannot. Then say, otherwise I was. So you could not see. Can you go ahead and come here? The other part, Suman, can you see? Sagnik, you just please come here. Sujata, Shivam, you can see this side. Better. So it is nothing new, just what they just combined. So delta G for formation of an embryo containing I atoms will be given by I multiplied by that. What is the delta GB equation we got? That Gn minus Gi minus of Xn minus Xi multiplied by delta G delta X at Xi. That was the delta G. That is this length is nothing but G. This length is nothing but whatever the Gn corresponding Gn minus, so from here to here this length minus this length, Gn minus Gi minus this slope multiplied by this distance. So that slope multiplied by Xn minus Xi, so that length minus this length is that delta G beta, and the surface energy term is that alpha Z UV Xn minus Xi whole square. We said, so whatever Baker wrote for the surface energy term, he wrote, this is that that N star he wrote. So alpha takes care of the geometry, number of atoms over the surface. Okay. So and it is proportional to the coordination number. It is proportional to UV. What is UV? It is the bond energy between unlike atoms minus average bond energy of the like atoms, and composition difference between Xn and Xi. What is Xn? Xn is the composition of the embryo, Xi is the composition of the matrix. So square of that. So this is the equation. What Baker assumed was composition of Xn as X beta. Baker assumed composition of that to be this X beta. Here what these two guys did is just kept Xn as variable. What Baker did, Xn to be constant at X beta, but Borelius did Xn variable, but whichever is, then he came up with, and he ignored gamma. But Hofstadter and Seil, they did not ignore gamma. They kept the form of this interfacial energy. They kept the form of this. Xn is a variable, and so delta G is function of the size. Size is being taken care of this number of atoms in the embryo. I is the number of atoms in the embryo, and also the composition Xn. These two variables. So it's a surface that gives free energy of formation. Delta G is a surface in the space of size and composition I and Xn. So whatever the saddle point in that surface you will get. So that saddle point will give you the delta G star. It's understood. Now if you see this term, this surface energy term gets reduced as this difference comes down. So as Xn goes, Xn, if it goes this side, then this difference will come down and gamma will come down. So as Xn comes down, composition of the embryo goes down, your gamma or surface energy term goes down. But your delta GV is maximum here, and as Xn goes down, delta GV mod value that also goes down. So it is the two opposing factors. This is a negative term, this is the first term is the negative, this is the positive term. You want it is to be more and more negative, that means the value of it is higher. You want this is to be less, so which is coming from this, but it is making this term also lower. So it is a balance between these two, somewhere in between, whatever we discussed. That is the Hofstadter sign model, nothing new. So the Xn will be somewhere between these two, so not at the X beta. So which you will get, that composition that you will get will correspond to the saddle point in the surface of delta G over a space of size I and composition Xn. At temperatures approaching equilibrium, that is T approaches T equilibrium when there is very slow supersaturation. As temperature increases, this hump height decreases. This hump height in the Gibbs free energy, this is the Gibbs free energy in the composition plot. The hump height decreases and these two comes closer. Both miscibility gap point as well as the spinodal gap points, they come closer, and also the hump height decreases as the temperature goes close to the equilibrium transformation temperature. And it has been seen that as the supersaturation decreases or the temperature goes close to your transformation temperature, the composition Xn, that Xn approaches Xn, that embryo composition approaches X beta. As T approaches Te, your Xn approaches X beta. And at high supersaturation, the nucleus composition will be somewhere in between X beta and Xc. So whichever balances these two terms. Okay. Now, all these models had implied assumption that there exists a sharp interface between the embryo and the matrix, across which the composition or the crystal structure abruptly changes. and also the interface is associated with the interfacial energy, which is not a function of curvature. Later in 1958 to 1962, in that period, Kahn and Hilliard came up with another model So they had a series of papers starting from 1958 till 1962, where they came up with a model where they, this assumption of a fixed interface of a short interface across which the structure composition is abruptly changing, that does not need to be held. Okay, what their model was, they came up with a gives free energy equation for a heterogeneous solution where composition is constantly varying as the following. So Gibbs free energy of a two component or multi-component system, heterogeneous metric space is, so they wrote two terms. One that is composed of two terms. One is the free energy that the volume has in the absence of non-uniformity. So free energy in absence of non-uniformity. And another is a gradient energy term, which is a function of local variation in composition. So Kahn and Hilliard just completely, not from that what we did from this that type of approach. They just came up, they just wrote Gibbs free energy of the metric space as a different model, just two, and the Gibbs free energy as it is a inhomogeneous solution. So composition is varying. So the first term contains, if there is no inhomogeneity, everywhere composition is same. What is the Gibbs free energy for that? And any local fluctuation in composition, they added another term for that. Okay, so so this is this term, and so this is the free energy per unit volume of a homogeneous solution. So this is free energy per unit volume, free energy per volume for a homogeneous solution of composition HB. And this gradient term, because of local fluctuation in composition, there is a gradient in the composition term. So square of that multiplied by some parameter which takes care of the curvature. So this gradient energy term takes care of the local fluctuation in composition. So the Gibbs free energy, and this is per unit volume multiplied by dV. So volume elements, you integrate it over the space. That is the Gibbs free energy equation written by them, Kahn and Hilliard, for the overall matrix, and this is applicable. This term takes care of any inhomogeneity. If there is a local inhomogeneity, even though a new nuclei has not formed, new phase has not formed, just at the embryo stage, that local inhomogeneity also is taken care of by this term. And also, even if a new nuclei has formed, a new phase has formed, precipitate has formed, that interface is also taken care of by this term. And this is applicable for this Gibbs free energy, or this approach of Kahn-Hilliard is applicable for solid state also. Only thing is the product has to, the precipitate or nuclei that we are considering, because we are using one single function of Gibbs free energy, that means we are assuming the precipitate also has the same crystal structure as that of the matrix. So here also that assumption stays if we write only one equation. And also the atomic size, the two components have same atomic size. That is because then variation in composition, because the local fluctuation, we are taking local fluctuation, any variation in composition, that should not give any additional strain in the thing. So atomic size of the product and the matrix are assumed to be constant. So then nucleation is nothing but having this Gibbs free energy is a function of xb. Now xb also is varying over time and over space. This xb is, that is composition, is varying over time and space, x, y, z, in 3 dimension, in 1 dimension x. Okay. So time and so this Gibbs free energy is not, so it's xb is not a scalar quantity, and Gibbs free energy is a function of xb, which is a function of space and time. That means Gibbs free energy is a functional, so it's a functional form. With this Gibbs free energy, the saddle point will give you the nucleation, delta G star in this. And through mathematical derivations, they showed that as the temperature approaches the equilibrium transformation temperature, it behaves like a classical nucleation theory. Like all the classical nucleation theory, whatever it says, that at low supersaturation, that is at when temperature is close to TE, transformation temperature, then the composition of the embryo that is forming, that becomes uniform, and that becomes close to X beta. That is one thing. And also the interface becomes more sharp. As you go close to your transformation temperature, Kahn and Hilliard showed through their approach that the embryo that is forming, that becomes more homogeneous, interface becomes more sharp, composition of the embryo tends to X beta, that is the equilibrium composition. So whatever the classical nucleation theory says, they also found out that those are being met, and also that as temperature reaches becomes close to transformation temperature, your R star and your activation delta G star becomes infinity. So all those things, whatever classical nucleation theory says, Kahn and Hilliard showed that as the temperature becomes close to equilibrium transformation temperature, those are met, those situations are met. And as the supersaturation becomes large, then the delta G star comes down, and at spinodal point, if your matrix composition becomes close to your spinodal point, then the interface width, this interface width for Baker, Borelius, Hofstadter, all three of them, interface is a very sharp interface. There is no width of interface. Here, Kahn and Hilliard, interface width is a variable. At high supersaturation, interface is short. At low supersaturation, when the alloy composition, your matrix composition is very close to your spinodal composition, then interface width becomes very, very large, and interface becomes more and more diffuse until eventually no part of the nucleus is uniform between your spinodal composition or below your spinodal temperature. You know about phase field modeling? Have you heard of? So presently all the microstructure evolution modeling is done based on something called phase field modeling, which is based on this Kahn and Hilliard approach. Okay. So from these you can write a chemical potential equation. If you have the Gibbs free energy, you can write the chemical potential equation, delta G. But only thing is your XB is not a scalar quantity. It's a function of both space and time. But the chemical potential definition remains the same. How the Gibbs free energy changes with composition. So you can write a chemical potential equation. You can then, if you have a chemical potential as a function of time and space, you can write diffusivity equation also, because chemical potential gradient will give you the diffusion. So diffusion coefficients can be written in terms of chemical potential. So you can write both kinetic equation as well as the thermodynamics both together to come up with how a microstructure starting from nucleation and in the growth stage, how it evolves, any new precipitate form. So the basis is Kahn and Hilliard model. So basis for all the present phase field modeling stuff in material science is Kahn and Hilliard model, where interface is not considered to be a sharp interface. Its width is a variable. Its composition, the nucleus composition is a variable.